The wolves are monsters, but once they are our best protector, it's the middle of the night, tens of thousands of years ago. You're huddled around a dying fire. The darkness around you isn't empty. You can hear breathing out there, movement, eyes reflecting the last of your firelight, and one of those pairs of eyes belongs to the most dangerous pack hunter on the continent. Fast forward to tonight. That same creature is snoring on your couch, dreaming about squirrels, waiting for you to drop food on the floor. Nobody designed this. Nobody planned it. It might be the most important accident in the entire history of human civilization. It started with garbage. Hunter-gatherers were terrible at cleaning up after themselves. Bones, scraps, half-eaten carcasses, they left a trail of leftovers across entire landscapes. For wolves, a human campsite wasn't a threat. It was a buffet. But walking up to a group of armed humans is a good way to get a spear through your chest. So only certain wolves tried it. The reckless ones got killed. The terrified ones stayed far away and starved. But the ones in the middle, the curious ones, the patient ones, the ones who could tolerate being near humans without panicking, those wolves ate well. They survived. They had pups. Those pups inherited their temperament. No human made a single decision during this entire process. Evolution just quietly did its job. Now here's where it gets strange. In 1959, a Soviet scientist named Dmitry Belyaev ran one of the most fascinating experiments in biology. He took wild foxes in Siberia and did exactly one thing differently each generation. He only allowed the least aggressive foxes to breed. No training, no conditioning, just selective breeding based on personality. Within a few decades, those foxes started wagging their tails at humans, whining for attention, seeking out eye contact, acting, in other words, exactly like dogs. Then their bodies changed too. Floppy ears appeared, snouts shortened, patchy white fur developed, tails curled upward. Nobody asked for any of that. It just came along for the ride. Scientists now believe that when you breed aggression out of an animal, physical changes follow almost automatically, which means the first proto-dogs probably started looking softer and less intimidating, long before any human consciously noticed what was happening. But then both sides started getting something out of it. Those animals could hear a predator approaching long before any human could. They could smell a stranger entering the valley hours before they arrived. They could track wounded prey across terrain that would take humans days to search alone. A wolf hanging around camp wasn't just a scavenger anymore. It was a living early warning system, a hunting partner, a security guard who worked for table scraps. Once that mutual benefit kicked in, the relationship exploded. This is why dogs hold the title of the first domesticated animal in human history. Before horses, before cattle, before farming even existed, dogs were already sleeping beside humans while the Ice Age was still happening. And then something unexpected happened to both of them. When humans eventually developed agriculture and shifted to grain-heavy diets, dogs quietly evolved to digest starch far more efficiently than wolves can. They literally rewired their own biology to stay compatible with ours. Meanwhile, something was happening on the emotional side too. When a human and a dog look into each other's eyes, both release oxytocin. That's the bonding hormone. The same one involved in the connection between a parent and a newborn child. Wolves don't do this with humans. Dogs specifically evolved to trigger that response in us. Those famous puppy dog eyes? Not an accident. Dogs that looked more emotionally expressive were more likely to be cared for, fed, and protected. Over thousands of generations, that face got selected for. Dogs didn't just learn to live with humans. They learned to speak directly to something deep inside the human brain. But the real proof that this went beyond survival is buried in the ground. In Germany, archaeologists uncovered a grave dating back roughly 14,000 years. Inside were the remains of a man, a woman, and a dog, buried carefully alongside them. The dog's bones told a story. It had suffered a serious illness as a young animal, the kind of illness that would have killed it within days if left alone. But it hadn't been left alone. It had been nursed through its sickness. Fed, kept warm, kept alive. Think about what that means. Ice Age humans, living at the absolute edge of survival, with barely enough food for themselves, spent their limited resources keeping a sick dog alive. That isn't practicality. That isn't strategy. That is something else entirely. And yet wolves are still in there somewhere. Every time your dog circles before lying down, it might be following an instinct that helped ancient wolves flatten grass before sleeping. Every howl, every dream twitch, every impulse to bury something valuable. Ancient programming still running in the background. Inside every golden retriever and every tiny chihuahua, there is still the faint outline of an Ice Age predator, which might be exactly why dogs feel different from every other animal we've ever domesticated. Cats coexist with us. Horses cooperate with us. Livestock tolerate us. Dogs chose us. Or maybe we chose each other. It's hard to tell where one story ends and the other begins. All of this, the 900 million dogs alive today, the search and rescue teams, the guide dogs, the bomb-sniffing units, the dogs sleeping at the foot of your bed right now, it all traces back to one thing. A few wolves were slightly less afraid of fire than the others. That's it. That was the whole spark. And tonight, without either of you knowing exactly how it happened, the two of you are going to fall asleep next to each other, carrying tens of thousands of years of shared history. The longest friendship our species has ever had. And it started with someone's leftovers.